we'll get started. Congratulations to you guys that made it through bag day and survived the 6 weeks. Now we're on to the next phase of the season. So first, I guess we'd like to open it up to any questions, if anybody has any questions. Okay, so no questions. So we can talk about what Clint was just asking about was how to charge your batteries. So, Clint, did you want to go ahead and speak to that?
Yeah, that's fine. So in your kit, you should have gotten, a couple batteries and a charger. I think the kit only came with one charger. The charger typically has 2 alligator clips, just like the, alligator clips that are on jumper cables. Not most teams, all teams, they take those chargers and they actually cut off the alligator clips and connect it to one of their additional Anderson power connectors that they have in their kit. So it's the same connector that you use to hook up to the circuit breaker to turn your robot on and off. This allows for you to take a battery, put it inside your robot, plug it in, run the match. After the match, unplug it, plug it into the charger, and it can be charging quickly. You don't have to worry about peeling back the electrical tape that's around the connections, so you can hook up the alligator clips, and then someone bumps it, and the 2 ends touch, and it shorts out, and gives you more problems. So be sure if your charger right now is still the alligator clips, modify those so that you're using an Anderson power connector to be able to charge your robot. It'll make it safer in your pits and make it a lot easier to work with when you need to charge those batteries. And also to note, I think I've said it in previous calls, most teams actually change their battery every single match. So, they play a match, change the battery. Play a match, change the battery. And at the same time, they're always keeping one battery, at least one battery, if not more, charging in the pits when they're not using it. So, does anybody have any questions on that? I guess that's a no, so we can go on to the next thing.
So I guess other than that, we don't have any real formal items, unless there's other questions. Which events are you guys going to?
We're at
we'll be.
Oh, you broke up there.
Team 6193 is at Standish Sterling Week 1.
We are at Kettering Week 1.
Okay, so you guys compete next weekend.
So because you guys will be competing next week, be sure to utilize your 6 hours of unbag. You will not be able to, actually, no, you can start using that unbag time at this time because it's after 5 o'clock on Thursday, a week prior to your event. So be sure, maybe you want to have a meeting this Saturday so that, your drivers can drive a little bit. You can finish up some of that electrical wiring. You can add that other, mechanism where some bag you do some machining on it, whatever that is. Be sure to utilize that 6 hours before you go to the event. That 6 hours is not necessarily needed at the event. I don't know if anyone has any questions about unbagging.
For the unbag time, you can use that 6 hours before your second event as well, correct?
Yeah, your second event, you'll get an additional 6 hours. Another, so really you get 12 hours of unbag. So if let's just say your second event is week 5. Actually, let me just ask you what event is your second event?
Our second event is the last weekend in March.
think that's like week 4 or 5. I think 5. Anyways, so
Yeah,
week 5.
4 or 5.
Yeah, so a week prior to that event, the Thursday at 5 o'clock, a week prior to that event, you can once again unbag your robot to continue working on it and doing the same type of modification. So at your event, your first event, be sure to take notes or determine what you're going to keep off the robot. Maybe you broke your arm or something at your first event and it's less than 30 pounds and you want to withhold that so you can fix it, make it better, and then during your unbag time, remount it onto your robot and test it again, during, your unbag before week 5. So once again, you get another 6 hours to do that. And it doesn't, and when you go to an event, your new 30 pounds of withholding does not have to be what your previous 30 pounds of withholding was. So let's just say you cut back your intake for the first week. And then, after that, your intake's working great. And at your second event you want to withhold your climbing mechanism or build or design a climbing mechanism and come in with that 30 pounds. You can do that because it doesn't matter. The other thing is, a lot of teams, there's 40 teams at an event typically, and 24 of those teams make the eliminations. The other teams don't make the eliminations. However, my suggestion is do not just pack up and head home, right? If you don't make the eliminations, use that time of when everyone else is playing the eliminations to improve your robot, to test your robot, to make it better, and utilize all that time, then bag it at the end of the event. Because you have to bag it at the end of the event. But you might be given an extra, 2 or 3 hours worth of time that you can be improving your robot so that your next event you go to, you do make the eliminations because you made the necessary improvements that you needed to make to be a good allianceman. So, any more questions on that?
We're kind of wondering what some common mechanical or electrical failures that you typically would see at an event.
This year, you're gonna if on your robot you didn't use nylon lock nuts to ensure that the bolts, the nuts that you use to attach everything, if you didn't use those to fall apart, you're gonna have people having screws loosen. Falling off, you might not tighten everything real tight. So going over these defenses might shake things loose a little bit. So, match to match, look over your robot, see if there's any missing bolts or missing nuts or anything like that. The other thing that you're going to want to look out for is, it's a full contact sport. Other robots are going to be running into you. So depending on, how fragile your intake or your shooter or your arm or anything that sticks out of your frame perimeter, your drive team might actually run into a wall under their own power and damage your arm, depending on the strength of it and how it's designed. So there isn't really one common thing. I mean, I think this year the most common is going to be having bolts and nuts fall out and loosen because of driving over those different defenses. Electrical is loose wires. People don't do a pull test on their wire. When they insert it into the Wago connection, they think it's good. They don't give it a nice pull test. If you have any, connectors for wiring that, uses a stayed connector or something like that, people don't test the crimp to make sure it's nice and tight and it doesn't pull out. You should be able to pull pretty hard on the connection and not have the wire pull out if the crimp is made correctly. Batteries becoming disconnected because they're not zip tied down. Battery ejection, basically meaning you go over the fence and all of a sudden your battery flies out of your robot because it's not physically attached to anything and strapped down tightly. Some teams will actually put a zip tie around their battery connection every single match to ensure it never comes unplugged. Your power switch could be in a bad location where if a ball or an arm comes down and shuts off your robot, that's another thing. Ethernet and power for your radio. So, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say on the battery thing too, We wrap like a Velcro strap around it, like Clint was saying, with the cable ties to make sure it stays inside the robot.
Yeah. And,
sorry, Clint.
no, it's okay. The other thing is, like I said, your radio, you want to make sure that the Ethernet connection stays plugged in and the power connection stays plugged in. We will usually use a little bit of silicone. You know, they can get from the hardware store. We'll actually coat the power connection and the Ethernet connection with silicone to make sure it doesn't accidentally come unplugged. The same thing goes with the Robo Rio. The Ethernet cord that goes in there, we make sure we silicone it into position. The silicone allows for you, if you absolutely had to disassemble it and take it apart, you could. We also never, ever disconnect the radio Ethernet cable from the Robo Rio Ethernet cable. You know, it might be easier for you to unplug that radio and plug in your laptop to download code or do whatever, but we never unplug that because it is inevitable. Someone will forget to plug it in, you'll put it on the field, you'll power up the robot. The field people will say, don't know why you're not communicating to your, the Robo Rio, because we see your radio, but we just don't see your Robo Rio, and there's bad code or something. We're going to have to start the match, and it was all because someone forgot to plug in the connection. That's why we never unplug that. Those are kind of some big things. I don't know if that helps.
Is there any other questions?
I have a question about Tim's. When I put our sponsors into Tim's, then our team name, instead of being All Saints, comes up as our first sponsor's name. Is that what's supposed to happen?
Yeah, so your team name ends up being your sponsors, and then your school is always at the end. So if you were sponsored by, if you're sponsored by, for us, GM and Grand Blanc High School, Grand Blanc High School, that would be your name. There's typically, I forget what they call it, I don't know if it's a nickname or team name or something like that, what people, call you by.
Yeah.
Sorry?
Yeah, the nickname stays okay. It's just the team name that changes. Okay.
Yeah, so I think our team's nickname is the Engine Nerds. So that always stays the same, and then our team name is considered all of our partners combined with our high school. And like I said, the high school is always at the end of that name. So in the first match you go in, the first match at each day, they will read and list all of your partners that you have off the list. So it is good to try to, list all the partners that you do have to make sure you give them credit for helping you guys, either get money or materials to build your robot.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. And then even next year, if you get more partners, or partners leave and you lose partners, make sure each year you update that. That way it keeps it up to date, and not to say it in a bad way, but that way none of your partners are getting a free ride to be on your partner list and they didn't give you any money.
Okay.
So Clint, just to update, 6193, they are at Standish, Sterling, and Midland are their two events. So what, 1 and 3, and then the other team on the line is 6081, and they're at Kettering 1 and Howell.
Okay. Yeah, I just don't know what Howell weekend is.
Howell is March 31st through April 2nd.
Yeah. So our team will. Yeah, so week 5. Our team will be at week 2 and week 5 at week 2 Kettering, and we'll also be at Troy week 5. You will probably see a lot of our team and ourselves walking around at Kettering 1. you know, just kind of scoping out the competition and seeing how the game plays. So if you see us, don't be afraid to walk up, say hi, introduce yourself. We'll
or
probably
if you
be
need
wearing
help,
some
if you're
kind
at Kettering Week 1 and you need, if you're at Kettering Week 1 and you need help and you see a Ninja Nerd, feel free, grab them, they'll help you. Our students are really great about helping, so.
Yep. I'm the scary guy with a beard and a hat. At least that's what most students think.
Does anyone else have questions? We really wanted to reserve this week for you since the last couple of weeks. We've basically just been throwing information at you for you guys to come up with any questions that you have. There's no such thing as a stupid question. If you are hesitant about something, you don't know about something, you don't know what to do, you don't know where to go, you don't know where to park, you don't know what to see, who to talk to, anything, feel free to ask us. We're here to help.
I have a question about the unbagged time. We have a potential sponsor that wants to come in the next week or two. If does sponsorship unbagged time count against your 6 hours of unbagged time?
I do not recall the ruling on this year. There was a time where you could unbag it for media purposes. So if you're doing an interview with, you know, with like a, you know, news people, you know, and you unbag just for a little bit to show it off. But you're not, during that time, you're not allowed to work on the robot, and you're also not allowed to, you know, do any modifications and changes. And really, honestly, I think they even said you weren't allowed to have your, like, main drivers practice driving and stuff like that. It was supposed to be, like, someone else driving it. My recommendation for you is because she can actually supersede a lot of other stuff, I would contact Gail Alpert and make sure that Gail Alpert okays your demo, you know, with your partners or your sponsors, and get approval from her to do it. Usually, I think she's usually for it because, hey, the more you can get in front of partners and sponsors, the more money they're going to give, the more they're going to support first, and everything else. So it's a win-win for everyone.
Correct. We're just kind of in the situation of being a rookie team that we're contacting all these local companies, and none of them really have a fully understanding of what we're talking about. So they kind of want to see what we've done as the best way to show and get them interested, basically.
Sure, and I think contacting Gail, like I said, I don't see that being an issue of her allowing you guys to. I just don't, me personally, I don't have the authority to do so. So she's the one that you would want to get approval from. That way, when you go through an inspector and they see that you had bag time outside of the normal time frame, that you can say, you know, I talked with Gail, she okayed it, here's her number, you know, call her, and then she's going to be like, yeah, it was okay. I said that they could do that. So.
Okay. Better to cover your bases.
Absolutely.
A great thing that you can also do that we do for our team is we invite all of our sponsors to our competition. So we actually print off little invitations that say, you know, we're at Kettering Week 1 and Halloween Week on March 31st and, you know, Kettering March 3rd from this time to this time, come join us. And we've actually had a lot of our sponsors come to our different events. So I'd highly suggest that you do that because it's a lot different seeing your robot drive around your facility where you build and seeing your robot in competition. It will give them a great semblance of the work that you guys have put in when they see you competing with other teams.
Are there any other questions?
No.
Nope, I think that's it.
Brandon and Clint, do you have anything else?
I think I'm set. I mean, we're just here for you guys if you guys have questions. I mean, at all, anything over the weekend. So we will actually, the engineers are part of the planning committee for Kettering District 1 and Kettering District 2, so we'll be there on the day of the event. So if you see us there, come over and say hi, send us some questions, anything you guys need.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I guess one other thing, just a real quick, remember your rosters for when you go to a competition, because you're going to need those to check in. Is there anything else you can think of, Brandy or Clint, that they should definitely have? Rosters, obviously their robot with their back sheet.
The one thing I would say about robot is when you go
cost
to the
accounting
event,
worksheet.
The thing I would say about the robot is when you go to your event, you're going to want to make sure you do not unbag your robot on your own. You need to find someone that has a yellow hat who's considered an inspector. Get them to come over and sign off on your bag to make sure that it's appropriately accounted for your unbagged time and to make sure it was bagged properly and all that kind of stuff. Do not open it yourself, okay? So in the suggestion, try to get there so you can unload, get into your pits, and try to get an inspector as soon as possible. And then once you got that inspector to unbag, do everything in your power to start inspection. Go over to them and say, hey, we're ready for inspection. We want to start inspection. They'll hopefully not find anything big. If they find little things, you can fix them. The longer you wait to get inspected, the longer the wait will be because other teams are slowly getting to the point where they can get inspected. So get inspected early is a high recommendation.
Is there like typically a place you go to for inspection, or they just come to your pit when you're ready for them?
You go to pit administration, and which there'll be a sign, or it's kind of on one end of the pits. You walk over to pit administration and you basically say, hi, I'm from team 2337. We usually send a student over and say, we just want to let you know that we are ready for inspector when someone's ready. And they'll say, okay, we'll send an inspector over to your pit as soon as we have someone that's available. So you kind of get in queue, but you just ask them. They won't come to you. Sometimes special attention gets paid to rookies just because they're new at it and it'll be your first event. But just walk up to pit admin. People are really friendly. Tell them you're ready for inspection, and usually if you get over there early, there'll be an inspector person waiting and said, yep, I'll go with you. We'll go start the inspection right now.
Okay.
So if you are the primary or secondary contact, you should have received an email from me about the Kettering district. I actually put in there a step-by-step process of how you check in for inspection in that email. So if you're not that person, the person who is your primary or secondary contact should have received that. And I think we also put it in last week's note so that you can go through it a step-by-step where to check in, what to do. So when you're at Kettering, the pit administration is near the back entrance to the pits, under the track near the stairwell. I know that's where that Kettering. I've never been to Standish Sterling. So, but there should be a big sign. It'll be a table. There'll be like people sitting there with a bunch of paperwork and toolboxes and stuff.
You said that you sent out
spare parts. Oh yeah, sorry. Go ahead. What was your question?
You said you sent out an email for Kettering. We got switched to Kettering 1 a few weeks ago, and we haven't gotten any emails about the upcoming event.
All right. Here, let me. What's your email address?
mhall, M-H-A-L-L, at
mcsk12mi.us?
Yep.
All right. Did you come to our workshop?
We were going to. We were
All
going to, but then we ended up in the Ann Arbor workshop.
All right. I was just like, why do I have you in my system? All right. So, Matt, I'm going to send this to you, and it has all of the information you need. There you go. You should have it. There you go. You should be getting an email, and it has everything in it that you need step by step from the moment you arrive on Thursday until the end of Saturday.
Okay.
Did you get a similar email for the Standish
one other
Sterling?
thing.
We got ours from Standish Sterling. We're good.
All right, awesome. Go ahead, sorry, Jason.
I was going to say one other thing is if you can get to your event early on Thursday or whatever when the load-in time begins, that's, again, advantageous to be there to be able to get your robot unbagged and get started with inspection. So if you can be there right from when the door is open, that gives you the most opportunity to work on your robot and improve your robot. Like Clinton was saying, you know, if you don't make it to the playoffs on Saturday, plan to still stick around and work on your robot or practice. Usually the practice fields are being taken down at that time, though. But to be able to make improvements to your robot, and then there's the award ceremony at the end of the day, so there's always a chance that you could be up for an award, too.
Clint, do you want to cover spare parts?
That's it for me.
Yeah, I mean, spare parts, you know, you have to just try to take a look at, you know, similar to what things might break on your robot. You know, if you have motors, you know, that might be in a delicate location, you have gears that might get damaged, it's really
like
hard to say.
Spare parts like at pit administration.
Oh, yeah, I can talk to that. So I mean, try to bring some spare parts but for your robot, but don't be afraid to, one, go to pit administration and ask if any teams have that spare part. So say you have an 18-tooth gear with a 1/2-inch hex, and you're looking for one, pit administration will make an announcement to all the teams at the event, asking them, and then usually a team will come over and say, yeah, we have this piece. Do you need to use it? Or here it is. Or we don't have that, but we have this. And then the same thing goes with some of the larger items like Robo Rio and the power distribution. If that was to get damaged in an event, there are typically some spare parts there that you can use and borrow for the event. But if you don't return them, I think they charge your first account for those items. But a lot of times teams will ask other teams for assistance, even if it's a 2-inch long 832 bolt. Don't be afraid to ask and to have the teams make announcements, or ask your neighbors.
Like, I'd say that's probably one of the weirdest things about FIRST is there's constantly announcements running of people needing these weird things, and teams won't hesitate to bring it over to you. If you're like, hey, we need, Clint said, a certain gear, there's teams who would dig in their toolbox and be like, here, we have one, you can have it, or whatever. So don't be afraid to ask. Instead of having things broken and stay broken, ask teams to help you fix stuff. Ask teams if they have spare parts. They will help you and they will lend you or give you things. It is imperative that you are a valuable alliance partner if you would like to make the eliminations. And so being too proud to ask for help will hurt you in the end. Take the time and ask. I think that's all I've got. So unless you guys have any other questions, we can end a few minutes early and let you guys relax a bit.
I'm good. Thanks.
So in terms of our next meeting time, you're welcome. I guess, when did we want to try to have another meeting? Did we want to shift the day?
I think that we talked about waiting until the week of championship or the week before championship. So that if there's any...
Okay, so we didn't want to do one in between? Like
I would say state championship.
Okay.
So like...
Yeah, sorry, that's what I meant. Not championship, MSB. Yeah, sorry, Clint, you're correct.
Yeah, I would say do it, maybe the Tuesday or Wednesday before week 6, right? That way we can talk about the people who think that they're going because of their
like
point status,
April
or
5th.
people that might be able to go.
April 5th is that date. Can you do Tuesdays, Jason?
Okay, that sounds good. Yeah, I should be back by then. Yep.
Okay.
That should work out.
And